So it was a fun, sort of curious learning environment, and I was delighted to be a part of that. And in the end of 2009, after about 10 years of being there, one of our co-founders had left after about 4 years. And so it was me and the physician business partner that I had at the time. And he asked me for a lunch meeting off-site, which was a little odd. And as we sat down at the table, he said, "Oh, by the way, I've hired someone else to do your job." And yeah, that was kind of my face. I could probably list on one hand the number of times in my life I've been truly speechless. And that was one of them.
Welcome to Stories from Under the Piano. I'm Craig Addy, your host. I'm the musician who listens to the listener. This podcast offers a glimpse into the world of Under the Piano, an immersive musical experience I've been providing for 15 years. Over 1,000 people have discovered comfort, connection, and healing through these sessions lying under my grand piano. In each podcast episode, a guest shares a personal story, and I respond with a spontaneous piano piece that evokes the emotions and mood of their story. My mission is to connect, comfort, and inspire through the universal language of music. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Let's dive in. Welcome to Stories from Under the Piano. I am delighted to have my guest Jill Arena with me today. Hello, Jill.
Hi, Craig.
I'm so thrilled that you're here. Let's start off with a little introduction about you so people know who you are, and then we'll move on from there. Jill Arena is a dynamic healthcare executive dedicated to helping physicians and medical providers thrive by mastering the business side of their practices so they can focus on patient care. She is the CEO of a healthcare consulting and revenue cycle company, an author, podcaster, speaker, and co-founder of the Physician Leadership Project, a program that empowers physician leaders with skills in finance, executive presence, and networking. A serial entrepreneur with deep experience in healthcare startups and practice finance, Jill is also a passionate advocate for social causes, including services for homeless youth, the elderly, and abuse survivors. When she's not mentoring or networking, Jill loves spending time with her daughter, visiting farmers markets, reading, and exploring the world. Welcome, Jill.
Thank you, Craig. It's great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, is anything to add to that introduction I gave you?
No, I thought it was beautiful. Thank you.
Great. Well, let's go to the story. What is your story going to be about?
Well, my story is about 15 years old. I had worked starting in the year 2000 with a couple of physician business partners to co-found a primary care clinic that was a new take on how we provide primary care in the US. And much of the design was to attempt to meet patients where they were coming from. Kind of a recognition that our healthcare system is broken. In the US, we had a lot of long wait times, and it would take a long time to get an appointment, and visits were hurried and rushed and just wasn't optimal for anyone. Physicians were stressed, staff were stressed, patients. So our redesign was really exciting. We spent quite a bit of time thinking about how we would structure a clinic that would really meet patients where they were coming from. And what we finally created was a very cool experiment. And in fact, we called it Greenfield Health, for a greenfield experiment where you just wipe the slate clean and start over and pretend like you know nothing about the business you're working in. And you create something brand new. So what we created was a clinic where there was no waiting room. That was the first stake in the ground. We said, why would we build a space for patients to do something that nobody wants to do? Nobody wants to go to the doctor's office and wait. So we created a very unique physical structure for the clinic, and we applied some really interesting care models and we used the state of the art technology. So we actually were some of the pioneers of electronic visits. Early back in 2000, there wasn't anyone doing email with patients, or very, very few providers doing that. And we had this new piece of legislation coming out called HIPAA, which was all about privacy and confidentiality of medical records. And so there was a lot around having the right technology to be able to safely email your patients. And so we worked through all the technology underpinnings of that. And it was a journey of many years. And it lots of fun, lots of learning. We were involved in some really exciting conversations with practices from all over. And so that started me on a path. It was the first and only time in my life that I've been fired from a job. And it was very interesting because I, as one of the co founders, had set up many of the business structures. And so I knew if I were to leave there, there was a lot for me to hand off if I wanted to be responsible for how I left. And there was a lot to hand off. So that started a whole path that was quite a journey. But that's really the story that I wanted to share today.
Wow. Um, so let's just kind of go through it from an emotional perspective, because as I say to my guests, music is the language of emotion, and that's what I'm really mostly looking for, not exclusively looking for in a story. But so there was the creation of it and the cutting edge. This is something totally new. What were the emotions in that part of the story?
That was a lot of fun. It was curiosity. There were fascinating conversations. There was so much learning going on. And it was just this like high energy, exciting, um, really cool place to explore, you know? And so that
Mm,
was what we were doing was really pretty cutting edge. And it was a pretty heady feeling. Like we had people coming from all over to visit the clinic that we had built because the physical structure was so unique and the
wow.
care model underneath it was so unique. And so that was just it was fun. It was kind of heady, you know, and
Yeah.
like rarefied air, you know. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So that
then,
was the
yeah.
emotion at the beginning. And
Yeah.
then I would say over the intervening decade, you know, there were certainly ups and downs, but it was, you know, rolling right along. The business was growing nicely. We added another location. We also added multiple different lines of business other than the clinic. So it was like we have this robust clinic that's going and we're seeing patients. And we had a really thriving consulting business and revenue cycle got added in there, and we were hosting technology. So we had a huge server stack. So it was a lot of high tech and technology and fast and fun moving and or fun and fast moving. And you know, it had its sort of its ups and downs, but it was always kind of a high vibration place.
Yeah.
And I fully expected to retire from that job.
Right.
And so it was right about the time I think I was about 41 at the time
Yeah.
that all this went
So,
down.
so a high vibration generally, uh, what other emotions would you put to this period of time where everything was kind of humming along with its ups and downs?
Um, I'd
You
say
said
for the most
fun.
part, happiness, high energy. Um, yeah, kind of the things were working smoothly, and any problems or issues that came up, we had a really good team that could dig in and solve them. And so there really wasn't a lot of stress or struggle, sort of the normal amount you would have with
Yeah.
growing a business. But it's just like it was full of possibility. And
Yeah.
just kind of like things seemed to float right along, just kind of hummed right along. So,
Great.
yeah.
And then,
Dun, 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 yeah. The fateful day in November of 2009. I can remember the
yeah,
date.
you can laugh about it
Um,
now, but I'm
I
sure at the
I don't know.
time
With
that
15
was
years of time and
horrible.
space between me and that luncheon, yes, I could laugh about it now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that began a period of real upheaval, and Yeah, a lot of stress, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of anger and denial, and yeah, some really low feelings and low energy and indignation. I mean, like a lot of righteous indignation mixed in there too, and some fear. Like what am I going to do with the rest of my career? Because I've just sort of been like, as my sister would have said, plot twist. That's like of the extreme nature. Yeah. So, confusion, a lack of clarity, even as I started exploring new avenues, once I kind of picked myself up, there was still not a lot of clarity for a while. And,
Yeah,
and I'm a person who likes clarity and who likes a plan. And so that
I
was
know.
very squishy. You know me to be a person who likes clarity and a plan. Yeah, very squishy. And I'm not super comfortable with squish. So that was an experience.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's create some music.
Okay, I'm excited to hear what it sounds like. Should I tell the end of the story?
Oh, I'm
I mean, you
sorry. Sorry,
you
no.
sort of well, you sort of told the end of the story in the introduction, but that's the happy ending to the story is I would say the story probably had a happy ending after about a year and a half, but it was
Oh,
it was pretty
okay.
squishy. Year and
Yeah.
a half. But that resulted in the founding of my business that I have now. And each year that I sort of grown away from that experience, the business is even more stable and successful. And it underscores for me that, as my father suggested to me a couple of months in, it was the best bad thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very good.
And you know the end of the story. You interact with our team and
Yes, yeah. So
and
I mean, I'm glad you put that in. It sounded to me like the meeting and losing the job was the end of the story. So that's why. But
oh
I,
yeah.
w- as you were sharing it, I was thinking, there's no way Jill would want to end on that note.
We have to have a Hollywood happy ending always. Right? No, I think that's the important part of the story about the time that I got fired is it allowed me to it forced me actually to go and create something and to create the reality that I want to live into. And so that's the
Yes,
company, and then subsequently the book, and with a lot of help from you, the podcast, and then my ability to speak to groups and facilitate and do some education. So I see it as truly it was painful, but it was a pivotal point in the
yes,
journey to bring me
yeah,
where I am today. So
yeah,
I can look back on it now, and I would say if I ran into my business partner on the street at this point, I would try to give him a hug. I don't know if he'd accept a hug from me, but I would try to give him one.
yeah,
And I would definitely say thank you. Yeah.
yeah. There's a good probability that you and I never would have met if that hadn't happened.
That's right. That's right. So everything for a reason, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now let's create some music.
No, I love it. Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
this is fun. Thank you for inviting me to do this. I'm
Thank
having a
you.
great time.
Okay.
Stunning. And it reminds me how long it's been since I've heard you play. It's been far too long.
Uh,
Absolutely beautiful. Oh my goodness.
mm.
It took me right through all of it.
Oh,
And
good, good.
yeah, yeah. And out to the other side where I'm left with a smile and a lot of joy. And yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. That
I
captured it.
yeah, for me there was also, even though you didn't say that, there was personal triumph in there. So,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for calling that out too. Yeah. And as you know, I'm not one to really toot my own horn a whole lot. So that's something, yeah, it's something to say. To say a successful business owner after 15 years, that feels good to say that.
yes. Yeah,
A lot of a lot of small businesses don't make it that
they
long.
don't.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I was actually looking up statistics on small businesses, and the vast majority are quite small, like less than $100,000 a year in revenue. So ours is
Yeah.
significantly larger than that, and seems to be on an upward trajectory. So we'll knock on something wood.
Yeah, well, that's a perfect segue into what I'd invite you to do next, and that is to talk about your business or any passion projects that you
Yes.
have, or both.
Thank you
So
for the
why don't you
invitation.
share a little bit about your business and who you're looking for to complement what you're up to and whatever you like. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. So the business is Healthy Practices. It is US based, and we work with physicians and medical groups all over the country. We were founded and grew up in Portland, so we have a lot of clients and strategic relationships in the Pacific Northwest, but work with groups all over. And it's at its simplest form, we really work with anything that has to do with the business side of outpatient medicine. So that's our focus. It's humbling to get to walk with physicians and through the various different adventures that they have with their practices and their businesses. In the United States, we don't teach physicians much of anything about business or finance as they're going through
Hmm.
medical schools. So there's this learning gap there. And that's one thing that we're out to fill. So first of all, the consulting company and the revenue cycle company, Healthy Practices, will assist, like roll up the sleeves and help do the work to help physicians have healthier practices. And then my passion project that you mentioned in the introduction is really the Physician Leadership Project. And that's a not for profit that we stood up about 4 years ago. And my business partner in crime on that one is Dr. Craig Wright, who's a longtime physician leader and who sometimes gets your emails and you sometimes get his emails because I'll type in Craig, you just never
Well,
know who's
I
going to get
think
the
there's
message.
been maybe one, two at the most. Yes.
I love having amazing Craigs in my life. So, but the that's been a labor of love too. We've just getting ready to start our sixth cohort in a year-long program for high potential physician leaders, and it is such a joy to get to walk with them as they're developing themselves into leaders and visionaries and taking all the skill and talent that they have and applying it to their practice or their department or a role that they might have at the hospital. And to see them all stepping into formal leadership roles is really exciting. So that's what I love to do. So thank you for the invitation to talk
Uh,
about it.
Thank you. And I'll put any and all links that you provided me into the program notes for this podcast episode so that people can reach out to you. Is there a preferred way that you like people to reach out to you?
There's a whole bunch of information on our website, and they can send an email as well. There's fortunately, since I'm not very good at email, there are people that look up the emails
Yes.
and take care of them. So the cast of characters. Yes, no, we're happy to talk to any individual or any group at any time about whatever's going on. And our website has a little tongue in cheek statement that's tell us where it hurts. So that's
Yeah.
uh, that's where
Yeah.
we start and try
Okay.
to make
That's
it
great.
easier. I like to say that, money doesn't solve all of your problems, but when the money part is handled, it leaves space for a lot of other things. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for, it's not every day that someone publicly shares a story about being fired.
I
So,
hope that I
yeah,
hope that it helps if
I
any of
think
your
it,
listeners
I like to think that it will. Yeah.
yeah, or have gone through that kind of thing. I invite everyone to think about it. And I didn't get this for several months. I said that my father said that to me a couple, 2, 3 months in, and I was not in a space to hear it when he first said it. But he's a wise man, a few words, and that was true. He knew it at the time. It took me a while to
Yeah.
process that
It's
it really
something
was a
you
wonderful thing. Yeah.
it's something
Yeah.
you have to come to for yourself at some point.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah. So I was able to evolve to that spot
yeah.
of this getting fired was really a wonderful thing. And it allowed me to be in a space of creating the life that I wanted, and gave me another swing at it. I had a wonderful decade working in that environment. It was very creative and high energy, and I learned a lot from a lot of smart people, including the physician who fired me. I
Mhm.
learned a lot from him, and in some cases, the learning was what to do, and in some cases, the learning was what not to do, how not to show up. And I think those are equally important, and we get those
Mhm.
lessons sometimes from the same people. But yeah,
Yeah.
anyone who's been fired or is going through something like that, or has a painful departure from a professional experience, that consider that it may just be the universe giving you a new
Yeah.
path.
Well, despite all that, and I don't know him, but I don't like him, Jill.
I'm over that. I think I've had enough therapy. But thank you. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's hilarious. That's again, it was a huge gift that he gave me, and I can see that now. So
Yeah.
that's the place to stay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Um,
you. What a joy to be with you. I so appreciate the
yeah.
chance.
Thank you for tuning in to Stories from Under the Piano. If today's episode resonated with you, consider booking your own personal Under the Piano session. It's available both in person and online. Experience the transformative power of music, tailored just for you, featuring several personalized compositions that capture the essence of your stories. Learn more and book your session at craigaddy.com. Let's create something beautiful together.